Hello everyone, happy quarantine. We're living in strange times, in a very strange world. Finding myself confined to my creativity corner, I thought I would make a fun activity for everyone to do at home, and that is puppetry. I've really gotten into puppets recently, quite badly so actually. I want to do it as a career. It started as trying to retrain my hand to move again by holding a needle, and it's got drastically out of hand. So today, inspired by a wonderful puppeteer called Adam, we're going to be following his tutorial to make a really simple puppet called a snoof. And we're just going to have a chat. We're going to have a nice time. Don't know if anyone knows this, I live in a funeral parlour, which is weird to begin with, but because we're key workers, this place has to stay open. That's really interesting, that's really odd, that's really weird. I just thought we'd sit down, have a chat. Like, we might chat about some strokey stuff, we might chat about some COVID stuff, but we're just going to have a creative day. We're going to be creative. Hello. Right, let's begin. So, you can get instructions and download them for free off Adam's website. Now, I am going to be working with some red fluff because I think I want my snoof to be fluffy. You don't have to, it's your choice. We're chilling out, we're having a nice time. I'm just going to start by grabbing this pattern here. So this is the body of the snoof, and this will be the mouth of the snoof. I'm going to start by cutting out the body because we're going to tackle the body first. This is like the type of shit the kids will learn about in the history books, and they'll be like, what was it like, Nanny? And I'll just be like, it's fucking boring, to be honest with you. Yeah. Not a lot happened. We just kind of stayed inside. I think though, like, for your own sanity, now is a really good time to get a hobby. I started my adventure into felt months ago now. Back when I couldn't even write. I couldn't even hold a pen, but I thought I'm gonna hold a needle because that's safer, and if it pricks me I can't feel it, so that's a little life hack. And then it just spiraled into all of this. So I've now cut out. Next we're going to trace it onto the fabric that you've chosen. You can choose any fabric, you can choose fleece, felt, fluff, any material you have lying around the house that you're completely okay to destroy. I'm going to use fluff because I haven't had a fluffy puppet yet, and I think it would look really sweet. If you are going to use fluff, it is important not to cut it out with scissors. You can, but it can cut the actual fluff itself, so it's better to cut it out with a knife. So as you can see, I've got a lot of it because I bought it ages ago with the pure intention of making said snoof. Use what is around the house. That's the point of this. The point of this is to make a quarantine puppet with things around the house. It can be whatever you want it made out of. So I'm just going to get the corner because I don't want to waste it. God, I'm going to get covered in red fluff after this. So I'm just going to get the corner, the inside bit of the fluff, and I'm going to lay it down onto my table. I don't have a second camera, you see. Otherwise you'd be getting like a cool POV shot, but I'm just not that kind of guy. When you trace it, it's important that you leave a bit of space. So if this is my fabric, I'm not just going to draw straight along the edge. I need to leave a gap, and that's really important. That's a sewing gap. So you're gonna draw one this way and one that way, so we've got two sides of it. So as I was saying, I feel myself in a bit of a unique position because not only am I a stroke survivor and high risk, but my mum is a funeral director, and I've always lived in the funeral parlour, like always. I've seen what must be thousands of dead people by now. It's just, I'm absolutely used to it. It's just the way of the world. Where I can go downstairs in the morning in pyjamas and there's like a bunch of bearers there that I've never met before. But that's always been my life, and it's always been great. I think it's great because it gives me a certain sense of perspective that growing up I realised not a lot of kids had, because the phrase someone's always got it worse than you, right, would be used a lot in parenting techniques when I was younger. The difference is my mum could back it up with examples. of like horrors that her poor families were going through during those times. So I've always found it kind of a blessing, except for now, of course, because this is where I think there's 2 times where living in a funeral parlour will be detrimental. One is in a zombie apocalypse, and one is in a pandemic, the latter of which is happening. I come from Norfolk, which is that like little sticky outy bit on the edge that not many people know about, and because not many people know about it, we were actually the last county to get the coronavirus. We, for a long time, I say long time, like 5-6 days after everyone else, didn't actually have anyone that had coronavirus. Sorry if you hear my dogs barking, it's a lovely day and I want them to enjoy themselves. Yeah, so we were the only ones that didn't have coronavirus, and then everybody from London who had a holiday home ran up one weekend to Wells, to like the seaside, to everywhere, stayed in their second homes and absolutely bombarded the streets. So my local seaside town was full of people on holiday getting ice creams. Like my local village shop, run by good friends of my family, were being shouted at and nearly spat on and coughed at because we hadn't been rationing yet. There was no need to ration, and all of a sudden all these people were coming, stealing everything off the shelves, which is what contributed to the lockdown, because it was clear that people weren't listening to the advice because they were coming up here on holiday, which is nice. So we started with nothing, which made me feel safer. At this point, my family thought I was kind of a hypochondriac. They thought I was just being rude by staying upstairs. I don't think anybody, a fair few amount of people, I don't think many people quite comprehended what this would turn into. My family were putting themselves at risk, and that's the same for a lot of people who have family on the front lines. But I never thought that the front lines would be my house. Anywho, so I have... Oh, can you see that? I have drawn... There is going to be fluff everywhere for the rest of time. But I have drawn one facing one way, one facing the other way. That's really important. And I'm now going to try my best to cut them out with a knife. If you don't have a knife, cut it out with scissors. Who cares? We're in quarantine. Haven't you been through enough? You know what? This is too blunt. I'm just going to use scissors. Don't have a knife. You don't need a knife. This is about a simple DIY tutorial. Remember to leave a gap. Leave a gap. Really important that you leave a gap. I can't stress this enough. Do you see how there's a bit of a gap? I'm going to leave those gaps, but I'm still going to weave around the shape. You don't have to leave a lot, just leave a little bit, because when we come to sewing it later, it's going to be really bloody helpful. So the only reason you're not supposed to use scissors on fluff is because it's said to cut the fluff whilst you cut the actual fabric, like shorten the fluff. But here's the thing, I don't care. And you shouldn't care either, because we're facing enough trauma right now, and if you start worrying about a puppet, wherever will you be? I have to say, the positive thing about quarantining in your family home, where if you don't have to pay any rent, is I haven't actually spent anything. That's a lie. I tell you for why. The only thing I've spent money on so far is Downton Abbey, the film, on Amazon Prime for rent, because I just thought I might as well treat myself. Anyone that went to go see Downton Abbey in the cinema, you'd have seen yours truly, as the stroke advert I was on was campaigned and shown before every screening of the Downton Abbey film. So much so that we got invited to a private screening of it to watch it and see our advert come at the front. And I have to say, I never thought that you could make an entire script and story based about the only tragedy being putting chairs out in the rain and somebody didn't polish the silverware. That was the biggest tension of the entire film, and it worked, because you're sitting there like, well, however will they put these chairs out in the rain? Why is the silverware not polished? The Queen is coming. I absolutely fell in love with it, and I hate to say, like, we went to go see it the night before we flew to LA to watch my film. That's a very odd sentence, isn't it? We went the night before for the screening, the night before we went to LA, and I absolutely loved it, and I didn't think I would. And then I found myself going back and watching every single season of Downton Abbey in less than a week. I'm blown away by it. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I like about it, but I like it. God, there is red fluff everywhere. I'm going to be finding red fluff in places that red fluff shouldn't be. Oh, I think it's in my mouth and I don't know how to get it out. I just thought somebody out there surely might be wanting a chat. And surely might be feeling that they want to let their creative juices flow. I have now got these two pieces, okay? So we've transformed, and we've done this, and we've got one that faces either side. I just also want to say, this is gonna really piss me off. I also want to say that you this is a small size. You can enlarge it on your printer if you want. I just wanted to make a little teensy weensy one. So the next thing is we are going to get some thread. Now you don't have to have thread the colour of the fabric that you're using. I just doing it because I got it. If you don't have it, that's fine, you know, like this is a homemade project at the end of the day. You see how it's inside out because the fluff is on this side. We're going to pin. If you've got any pins, that's great. If not, we can just sew it. You don't need any pins. But I'm going to, just for my sanity, pin both sides inside out together, and we're going to sew both of the inside bits. Let's start with this side. So I've just pinned it for convenience. You don't need to pin it if you don't want to, but it just helps keep it in place while you whittle, while you work. Got this tomato, which was my grandmother's tomato and dates back to, I don't want to say because it's rude. So I'm just going to grab a needle. Also, by the way, can you just grab a cup of tea while you do this? Can you just do that for me, yeah? Or a gin, whatever suits you. A lot of people, when they sew, they do this magic thing where they don't tie a knot at the end and they double loop it in, and it stays, and I can't do that, and I don't trust myself to do that. So I make the biggest, most obnoxious, most difficult knot I can at the end of my thread to ensure that that bad boy is not coming out at all. And if you're like me, and if you have recently had a brain injury or otherwise, and your hand is either numb or non-functional, obviously work up to this, but this, I have to say, is a really good way to get motion and make your hand useful again. Do you know what I mean? This is numb, but it works now. Yeah, no, this might be useful for you. So I'm just going to, at the bottom here, thread it through, and I'm going to loop it round. So I've just pushed it through, and now I'm going to push it through again to slowly connect the sides. As you can see, all the fluff coming out. It's going to haunt me. The spare space that we left is really useful because that now creates a seam, so when you fold it over you don't actually have any of the space of the proper puppet wasted. You just sew on the extra seam that you've made. I was actually thinking of making, with this sort of stuff, really glittery masks, really nice, cool, fashionable masks, and donating them to my local hospital because, you know, it will lift people's spirits, and they might not be perfect, but better than nothing. And I thought if they've got a bit of pizzazz about them, then it might make people feel a bit less crap. During this whole time, me and a group of my friends have been documenting our experiences in the hope to eventually show and compile them all together. We are all filmmakers, all artists, and I said, you know what, let's have a project, be free, express yourself in your own way, and make what you feel you want to make. And the submissions have been incredible. We call ourselves the Milk Situation, and I don't know why. I think we just ran out of milk one day. But we have this Google Drive called COVID Milk Teen that's filled now with over 100 submissions, and we've made short films, they've made sketches, or we just check in on each other and talk to each other through these films. So I think that will be really interesting actually, and it's been really nice to hear each other's voices, which I know sounds a bit cheesy, but it has been really nice to just catch up with everyone, and I think it's given everybody a lot of hope in a way, because it's something to do. For the past few months I've developed an absolute love of lobsters. I don't know why. I made some felt artwork featuring a lobster and it just spiraled from there. My granny knitted me a lobster. My town on Animal Crossing is called Lobster. I'm having a great time. I just love lobsters. I have sewn one side inside out, so that when we flip it, you can see it quite a lot on the camera, but you can't in real life. You need to make sure, by the way, you stop at the top. So when you sew up here, stop here, so we can leave this bit nice and open. I have sewn both sides, but I've left the hole in the middle. You don't need to do this yet, but just to show you. So because we've sewn it from the inside out, those seams are a lot harder to see, and it works really well. Keep it inside out. So we now need to cut out the mouth plate. We are going to need some felt. Now you don't have to use felt. If you don't have felt, use another material that you would like the inside of the mouth to be made of. But I personally am going to choose felt because I have the ability to choose. I would usually recommend a red piece of felt for the mouth, but because my snoof is red, I'm going to use some black. Because it's black, it's harder to trace, so I'm just going to pin it to the felt so that I can just cut around it. So I'm just going to pin it to the fabric and cut it out. Though if you did do it on red or you do it on any other colour, draw it out and then cut it out. So I have cut my black bit out, and it's not perfect, and that's okay. But now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch this bit here into the hole that we've left open. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pin, whilst choking on fluff, around the edges. I don't think I've ever seen it be this nice weather in years, and the moment we're locked inside, that British rain and drizzle and cold has just completely disappeared, and we're left with like nice weather. Like, I think actually it would be a lot easier and more people would follow the rules if the weather was shit. Probably start in the corner so we can start at the bottom and work our way all the way around, and just do the same stitch that we've been doing. So push it through and pull it back. While you sit here sewing peacefully in the sun, have a think about what you want his name to be, because of course he's a snoof, but that's the breed. You know, he needs a name. I was thinking Simon or Albert. I've sewn him, and now we are going to make a mouth plate. Now a mouth plate is really, really important for puppetry. So as you put your hand in and go like this, if it had no support, it would just be a material flap. Now the mouth plate goes in like that, and it allows you to hold on and make a much more solid puppet. So what we're going to use is cardboard. Now Adam says not to use cardboard only because when you put your hand in, and if your hand gets sweaty, it can weaken the cardboard, relax it, make it like bendy. But that doesn't matter because this is a quarantine puppet, and I bet you've been ordering a lot of shit off Amazon. So we're going to be using cardboard. I've used cardboard in Patchy. That's what he's got in him, and that's fine. This template that we use for the fabric, you see where there's the line, you're just going to cut straight down. One of them says top and one of them says bottom. We're going to grab our pen and we are going to draw, and this time we're sticking right to the edge of the template. We don't need any extra room because we're not sewing it and it doesn't need a seam. I have drawn the bottom bit of plate and the top, and where the line is on the actual template, I've drawn that because that's going to help you match it up to the shape of the fabric plate. Now you've drawn your two bits of mouth plate out, and make sure to label one top and one bottom. You are now going to cut out the cardboard mouth plate, staying exactly on the line this time. So I have my mouth plates. Okay, so what you need now is a hot glue gun. If you don't have a hot glue gun, try using glue. What I would do is just push my needle through and sew it slightly to the base of the mouth, and then just like put a tongue on the other side to cover it up. Here through the middle I would just poke a needle through and do that in a couple of places, and then I would cover it up on the other side by putting like a felt tongue down so you couldn't see the stitching going through. I'm just gonna cover it in hot glue, and I'm gonna use that line that we drew to match it up with the very point of the fabric of the mouth plate to make sure that's absolutely lined up and on point. Got some glue on myself, but it went on my numb finger, so I can't feel a thing. While that's drying, we're going to get to the fun stuff. I have a couple of options for you, eyes wise. We're going to talk about eyes. I've got golf balls. This is an extra large golf ball, and if you cut a golf ball in half and sharpie it, then it's an eye. You've got felt balls for eyes if you have any. Highly doubt, that's fine. You can have buttons, you can have plastic spoons. If you get a plastic spoon and just snip the end off, then you've got a really good eye. You're most common options are ping pong balls and plastic spoons. Or buttons, I think. I think he would look really cute with some button eyes. Now that this is dry, we're going to grab our snoof and turn him inside out. The base of your snoof. Really simple, really easy, with whatever eye method you want to use. So if you want to add in ping pong balls, I stuff loads of tissue in the back of this ping pong ball, and then I like cover it in hot glue, and then I can just sew it through, because then you've got a solid backing, which is really important, because if it's hollow it's just harder to apply. So mine now has 2 eyes, but we're not done, because now is the time for accessories. Now accessories can be anything you want. I personally am going to add some pipe cleaners for the hair and like a little tongue. So for a tongue, I'll show you what I like to do. I draw like a really oddly shaped heart. You don't have to sew this, you can just hot glue it in. This is just chilling out, having fun. Your opportunities are honestly endless with this sort of thing. You can just absolutely play about and do whatever you want. So if you wanted, you could use pipe cleaners for the hair. Just cut a hole in the top of his head and feed through the pipe cleaner and either bend it or tie it in a little knot. And I'd say he's finished. I think he is absolutely adorable. He's got one little pipe cleaner. Say hello to Albert. This is Albert. I love him. He is my son. I really hope you enjoyed it. We chilled out, we chatted, we talked. In the meantime, enjoy making your snoofs. Alright, bye.